Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the sunshine? Are you ready for the pregnancy, the apple trees, and a whole lot of good weather? Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the hot times? Are you ready for the firelight, the moonlit stars, and a whole lot of good weather? No more petrol, no more rush, no more teachers turning us, no more dance and history. Summertime and fantasy. Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the good times? Are you ready for the summertime in the summer?
You know, having to listen to that song, I'll confess right away, I've never seen Meatballs. Don't care to. And I like Bill Murray, but just never seen it. Don't especially care. I'm not a big fan of those kind of summer camp movies. They don't appeal to me as a person. So I'm quite happy to just, let people who enjoy it, and just I don't feel compelled to ingest it on any level. I now have a just perpetually negative association with that song. And my last quick thought, summer is a season of oppressive heat. If you live where I live in Utah, or, any in the Southwest, there are some wild changes in weather. It was 100 degrees here a little bit earlier. We just had a thunderstorm and 5 minutes ago. Oppressive heat, depending on your location, wild changes in weather, gobs of loud, noisy children all day long. Summer can suck it. And my inner child is now like screaming in some kind of agony that adult me would actually say that. Hi, everybody. This is the Radulich and Broadcasting Network movie review podcast. I am Robert Winfree, the perpetual rain on your parade, the ants at your picnic, the boil on the ass of life. That's me. And here with me, as almost always, my usual partner in crime, the man who chooses the music and chooses the movies and keeps trying slowly, inch by inch, to drive me into a simultaneous stroke and psychotic episode. Mark Radulich is here. How you doing, Mark?
I'm irritated. I'm annoyed. I'm irritated. I'm in a bad mood. I'm kind of bitchy. And you called me a woman for some odd reason. I'm still not.
I did not call you a woman.
But I still don't understand what you were trying to get at, Lassie. Did Timmy fall in the well? I don't know what's happening here.
All right. To clarify that before we get into the movie, so we don't have this resurge at any point. See, word puns. I was talking to my computer as Mark and I got into this, and I was just insulting it. I called it the worst. It's like the actual worst. And I had to recant that because my computer is not the actual worst computer. I've had much worse computers. And Mark, not having the proper context, only hear me saying, you're the worst, said, well, were you talking to me? I said, no, I can't call you the worst anything except maybe the worst woman. And I thought about it for a minute and went, no, I can't even call you that. Because I've known there are much worse women than Mark Radulich out there, and that was not intended as an insult.
But I'm not a girl.
I am well aware of that.
I'm a married man. I have children.
Yes,
I
you are.
2 children. I am biologically not a woman. And if you're saying, well, emotionally you are, then I would have to say, screw you and the horse you rode in on.
I was not attempting to say that either. I'm simply pointing out that on the spectrum of male to female, there are people further away from it than you.
So, in addition to you insulting me, I have Gavin insulting me earlier today, having not even listened to one of our podcasts, but then making assumptions. And my favorite part of people insulting me and getting on my nerves today were my father, who was with us on our Warcraft review, because he is a fan of high fantasy, and we were reviewing a high fantasy movie. And I thought, I am a giving and loving person who takes care of people and tries to include them. I am an inclusive person, not an exclusive person. I thought I would bring him along, and he sent me a message today saying, hey, how was your hog hunt? And I said it was good. As far as, one can say sitting in the woods in a tent, waiting to see hogs. We saw one hog. I took a shot at it. I either missed it or did not hit it sufficiently enough to kill it, and then we did not see any more hogs the rest of the evening. And as far as all that goes, we had a good time. My buddy Paul and I get on very well, and he's the only, as I said, he's the only person, maybe aside from my wife, who I could spend several hours in a hot tent and not want to punch the shit out of by the time it was over. So that's high praise coming from me. And my father sends me this text, so I sent him and I said, we had a good time, and that was all. That was it. And he goes, and my father writes me back. He goes, well, I'm glad you didn't shoot anyone. You can't see it, but I'm thinking.
The assumption being that all hunting trips end with person-on-person gun violence?
I think he's implying that I'm an idiot and would do something unsafe and accidentally shoot a person.
That's just silly.
I'm trying to figure out what part of my... I know I can be a silly goose at times, but I generally, in the face of an armed situation with deadly weapons, am going to take it seriously enough that I'm not going to hurt anyone around me. And other than I think at one point I swept it across my body, standing away from everybody else, and my friend kind of in the distance goes, hey, you're still pointing that in my direction. I went, oh, shit, and corrected myself. That's the one time it was even close to danger happening, and the gun wasn't loaded. Any other time I pretty much sat in the stand with the thing on the tripod, and I took my shot, and that was it. There was even if I was an idiot, there wasn't really an opportunity for me to hurt someone. It was an odd thing to say to somebody. So yeah, I want to review this movie, but I'm kind of pissy. How about that? I'm in a pissy mood, Robert Winfree.
Fair enough. This should be great for our listeners.
And I just got finished watching the 3-hour cut of Batman versus Superman.
Well, that must have done absolutely nothing for your mood.
Trying to figure out where the movie. I'll say this for the 3-hour cut: the movie flows a little bit better in terms of the editing. I'm not entirely sure. In some situations, it helps with the story, but overall, it's still got the same problems we talked about back in March. So
yeah,
so
an extra 30 to 40 minutes of filmmaking wasn't gonna solve all the issues we had. I don't think. No. There are still. I still stand by. This movie didn't need Wonder Woman or fucking almost Deadpool or Doomsday. Nor did they need the Easter egg scene with the different icons. Yeah, and again, cast your Lex Luthor better. I'm sorry, let me correct that. Write your Lex Luthor better.
Well, that still does bother me. But anyway, we're not here to talk Batman versus Superman or my hunting trip or my sad relationship with my father. We're here to talk about Independence Day, Resurgence. I got my game face on. Hoo-ah! Let's do it. Resurgence. Go.
Now, Mark, you are going to attempt to defend elements of this movie to me.
Plugs. I'm sorry, what?
I would like you to do something for me.
Eat shit and die?
No. Come on. Why would I tell you to do that?
I don't know.
If anything else, I would at least use slightly more superfluous wording.
Thanks, Winfree. You're all hard. What would you like me to do for you, sir? I'm game face on. Hoo-ah! Let's do it.
Following my plot synopsis, and I will endeavor to make this simply as straightforward as possible. I don't have a whole lot of extraneous ranting that I could potentially go into pertaining to the plot.
Please don't.
I will do my best. I would like for you to minimize all information pertaining to this movie. Because when you attempt to defend elements of this to me, I have both rebuttals and potential questions again, as a form of rebuttal. And I don't want you cheating.
Okay. I'm currently playing Angry Birds as I'm talking to you. So consider this minimized.
All right, fair enough. So again, when I ask you something like that, no cheating, no looking it up. Points have to be made as it pertains to that. And it might not come up, but if it does. I've just wasted. If it doesn't, I've just wasted 5 minutes of our existence.
I got it.
All right, Independence Day Resurgence. Man, 20 years is a long time to wait for a sequel. Mark and I both agree on this. Whatever other divisive opinions we have on this movie, 20 years is a long time to wait for a sequel. Fortunately, the sequel is set concurrent with that. It is 20 years since the original Independence Day, which took place in 1996. On July 3rd, and I bring that up simply because I'm going to bring up the timing of this entire movie later as a point of criticism. Late in the day on July 3rd, things start happening on Earth that are a little bit weird. Now, we actually open with one of the alien homeworld finally receiving the distress signal from the ships that attacked Earth. And, hey, things didn't go so well.
They're on track! Help!
Which, believe it or not, that doesn't bother me. Stuff traveling through space, especially that distance, time is a massive component. So they finally get the distress signal, and they're not happy. So they dispatch the harvester ship that is going to come to Earth next. Now, in the 20 years since the original incident, Earth's technology has improved dramatically. War on any kind of large scale has disappeared. There's a deep sense of harmony. Nearly being wiped out brought the population of the planet closer together. And to celebrate, again, 20 years, they're planning an event. Because we have, again, this technology enabled us to establish defensive perimeters on other planets. Specifically, one of Saturn's moons is mentioned. There's one on the moon where we get to see Liam Hemsworth, the lesser Hemsworth, and his contractually obligated haircut. I don't know if he insists or the studio does, but nothing stops Liam Hemsworth's hair. And his completely expendable sidekick, who was never expended. They are setting up a defensive outpost on the moon. And you get the sense that he's a rebel, and he's always coming in second place, and he's grounded. Wait, no, I mean, you're on suspension. No, wait, no, grounded. He's a pilot. That's the appropriate terminology. Sorry, I promised I wouldn't do that. Anyway, on the moon, while they are preparing this celebration, we see a spaceship. This is not one of the aliens that attacked us previously. Jeff Goldblum, who is the director of something, never explicitly stated what he is. I know what it is because I've read, but it is never stated. He's simply referred to as Director Levinson. Advises against shooting it down because it doesn't look like the same type of ship they fought before. The president doesn't care. They shoot it down anyway. This nice little round spaceship that bears a bit of a resemblance to a symbol that is popped up repeatedly from those who had close psychological or telepathic encounter with the aliens. Goldblum gives this advice from a remote link up in the Congo in Africa, where he is investigating a ship in the first invasion that landed, instead of simply trying to blow stuff up and had begun drilling, because the Congolese warlord there, who just inherited the title after his father died, finally lets them in, and he's going to tag along for the rest of the movie for no discernible reason. Also tagging along with Jeff Goldblum for no discernible reason is some bureaucrat. His name is Floyd, if memory serves. Who he works for, why he is there, none of that is ever expounded upon, and he continues to tag along and take up real estate.
Well, no, he's supposed to be. He was sent to fetch Jeff Goldblum and bring him to the ceremony, and Jeff Goldblum says, I ain't got time for that shit, and that is the sum total of their relationship.
Okay. I was under the impression there was something more to it than that, because he, in their first interaction, talks about having specific questions, and he has papers, and he mentions later that he plans on prevailing on either his sector or his group or his senator or what have you to improve funding to Jeff Goldblum's division that he is the director of. Anyway. I will accept Mark's explanation there in lieu of the movie telling me anything better. I stand by he takes up needless real estate. They, with a big assist to Liam Hemsworth, who hijacks a ship from allows them to go from the Earth to the Moon relatively easily. Jeff Goldblum wants to retrieve the wreckage of that spaceship that was shot down against his better wishes. They do so. As they do so, the Harvester ship appears and plows a giant trough through the Moon. This ship is enormous. It covers the entirety of the Atlantic Ocean. It absolutely massive. The ship then lands over the Atlantic Ocean, causes massive devastation to all coastal locations, London, Paris, the eastern seaboard of the United States, so on and so forth. And then it begins drilling into the planet's core. The people surmise that, well, they want to harvest the molten core of our planet. Okay. Sorry, no critiquing. The Earth, utilizing all of the technological advances they've made in the last 20 years, launch a counteroffensive that is led predominantly by Dylan Hiller, who was a wee little lad in the original movie, and stepson to Will Smith's character Steve Hiller. Will Smith declined to appear for this particular film. The schedule conflicted with Suicide Squad. I don't think he was going to win on either of those movies, but he made his choice.
From what I understand, he demanded $50 million for this and the sequel, and Fox said, "In your dreams."
Yeah, he wanted $50 million 6-7 years ago when they first floated the idea of these. When we have to talk about the production history of this film. Anyway, he made that request again 7 years ago, give or take, when he actually still had some box office clout. Not so much nowadays. Anyway, they begin moving this piece of alien technology to Area 51, where they can examine it. Brent Spiner, the good Dr. Oaken from the first film, wakes up after being in a coma for 20 years and is somehow unaffected by any of the problems that hit comatose people for that length of time. Muscle atrophy is a huge thing, guys.
It's the future. They gave him special pills.
I do not accept that.
I don't care if you accept it, but
I am prepared to make huge leaps when it comes to movies like this. Just give me a reason. Give me a reason to. Okay, we can do all this because we have hybridized their technology with ours. We've had 20 years to do more research and development. I'm with you. You can fly to Saturn relatively quickly. I'd never mind how far it is actually. This is what has allowed us to do it. I'm with you. We're good. Man inexplicably wakes up from 20-year coma without massive muscle atrophy. Not so much.
Special pills.
Then give me a scene where that happens. Lord knows there was enough from this movie they could have cut.
Star Trek 4. Bones gives an old lady a pill, and 5 minutes later she's screaming she's got a new kidney. That's the thing.
Well, he found a way to solve kidney dialysis. Second of all, first of all, going thousands of years into the future is different than 20 years. And I would agree, and I don't care for Star Trek 4 anyway. I find it to be one of the weaker Star Trek movies.
The even ones are all great. It's the odd ones that suck.
The even ones are not all great.
Couldn't help but notice your pain. Will you share it with me?
Don't get me wrong. Not all. Look, 4. 4 is not very great. I don't care for 4.
One damn minute, Admiral.
You finally swore correctly. Yay.
Oh, have some fun.
No.
All right. Then at least get on with your summation, please.
The counterattack that the Earth launches is woefully ineffectual. Horribly ineffectual. Nothing goes right about this. They lose cities. They lose personnel. All of their technological advances are basically for naught. We might as well have been throwing rocks at them. Just nothing goes right. So they attempt to regroup. As they are regrouping, For some reason, they kept the entire presidential line of succession in a single location, which you don't do. For exactly the reason they're about to demonstrate, the aliens find their Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the reason why they did it in this movie, other than, because plot says so, was they thought this was the safest place on Earth. They thought this was the impenetrable fortress, and that they were...
Doesn't matter. You never centralize 100% of your power structure. Never.
Okay,
there are procedures in place for this.
This world, they thought they were okay with breaking that rule because this was the impenetrable fortress, sufficiently away from humanity's centers that the aliens would never go there.
So what you're saying is, despite massive technological advancements and 20 years to plan adequately, they're infinitely dumber than we are now.
Yes, sir. It's called Idiocracy. It was a movie by Judd Apatow?
No. Because Apatow sucks.
Who am I thinking of?
Mike Judge.
Thank you.
Never seen Idiocracy, actually, but I know that.
Well, in the Idiocracy, very far in the future.
We've gone off on entirely too many trails to hear, and you're gonna get on my bad side enough tonight without trying to justify Luke Wilson to me. Anyway,
he's Roger Goodell in Concussion.
Luke Wilson is terrible. How you are worse than Owen Wilson is slightly beyond my ability to completely comprehend, yet he accomplishes it.
I'm just telling you he's in the movie. Easy does it.
I'm aware he's in the movies. I'm also aware you could cast anyone to do a better job.
Please remove your teeth from my hind parts.
Let me get back to you on that.
All right, so we're in Act 2.
Anyway, the aliens locate the Cheyenne Mountain nuclear fallout shelter, which has been refortified, and it's one of the more well-known in terms of we're aware of its existence. Bunkers that were built, in the 50s and 60s in the event of nuclear war, and they have no problem blasting through all of it and wiping out everyone inside. This results in William Fincher being sworn in as president, and I am honestly unsure as to how far down the line of succession you have to get within an administration before you actually get to a military leader being sworn in as president, unless he's he's not a secretary within the cabinet, though. They refer to him as general specifically, and if he's not the Secretary of Defense or anything, he is actually a military commander. I'd really have to look up how far down that particular line you have to go. It's far. They attempt to devise a counterattack based on some new information they have that includes a thermal scan of the mothership, which leads them to believe there is a queen. And if they take her out because there's some kind of centralized hive mind to these things, destroying the queen will functionally stop the attack, similar to the way that destroying the mothership did in the first one. So, yay, continuity. They devise a plan, they attempt to enact said plan, and it still fails miserably. They attempt to utilize their newest form of mass destructive weaponry, cold fusion bombs. I'm not entirely sure that would function, but my theoretical physics are not necessarily up to snuff, but just generally speaking, I seem to recall cold fusion not necessarily having the same type of energetic release in theory, because cold fusion is impossible, that you get with nuclear fission, which is actually occurring there, but I digress.
I would like, for those of you who listen to this podcast for the scientific part of it, please write us in. I would love to hear what you're getting out of this podcast when Robert goes on these tangents about how physics work.
I'm actually curious about that myself. Feel free to hit up Mark, and if you think I'm wasting time explaining how things actually work versus how they are purported to work in film, I'll do my best to limit that to one per movie. I will find, if there's anything that really bothers me, I will limit it to one thing and one thing only. So if you don't care, then don't say anything. If you like it, let Mark know. If you don't, let him know, and we'll again, I am prepared to curtail that particular part of my criticism if nobody out there isn't, if you all just kind of roll your eyes and fast forward.
Kind of like I do with the first part of the Steve Austin podcast. Don't care about you and your stupid ranch.
Don't you mean the entirety of the Steve Austin podcast?
Well, I only listen to the ones where he does interviews.
Yeah, I'm still going with. So wait, you mean the ones where he monologues with someone else interjecting questions?
Yes, sure. Unless it's Vince Russo,
right,
who never actually answers a question.
Oh,
Moving on.
Screw Russo. Anyway, this plot fails miserably, and now we are at theoretically our darkest hour. We get a brief inspirational speech from Bill Pullman, rocking a very nice beard, by the way. He was the president in the original. It succeeds in motivating the 5 or 6 people that are actually in the room when he gives it, but didn't credit for trying, even though they're just blatantly ripping off and recreating scenes from their first movie, which is a major complaint I have about this entire film. They have also, by this point, activated the other alien device that they found, which springs to life and gives them a bunch of information about these creatures, about what it is and its race, and how they're fighting back, and it's got a planet that
and mentions that, hey, I was prepared to give this to you an hour ago, but you shot me.
Yeah, lest we forget that.
I was here to give you lots of answers. Then you shot me out of the sky, and that was the end of that.
No, you're only a potentially dangerous, invasive thing that appears by actually warping space-time around you. And we've only had, and our history with extraterrestrials at this point is pretty piss poor. But hey, Jeff Goldblum just has to be right all the time.
I thought the alien spaceship. By the way, that's now my new favorite thing. Because it has a line of dialogue that goes something like, yes, you're primitive. You still have your original bodies and haven't uploaded your consciousness. I know, ball thing, right? That's what I want to do. I can't wait to upload my consciousness into technology.
It's never going to happen in your lifetime.
Go on.
Now that I've crushed your dream, I feel a little better about myself.
I pushed you.
Sorry. No. That was a pretty good line of dialogue. I'll give it that. They decide at this point that since the alien, because the Queen has the new alien emits because it's an artificial intelligence, emits a RF signal that is completely unique, and the alien Queen discovers it, and she detaches her ship from the Harvester ship, which is still drilling into the Atlantic Ocean, being disturbingly accurately monitored by an offshore salvage operation off the coast of Spain or whatever. Disturbingly accurate. Anyway, so she comes after this ship because this one bit of AI has been harrowing their existence. It showed up at Earth to evacuate as many people as possible and bring them to this refugee planet that is now in peril because if the aliens find it, they're going to wipe it out, and there will be no intergalactic hope of stopping this particular race of beings. Can you smell the sequel bait yet? Because it's going to get thicker. So they come up with a plan to mimic that thing's signature while simultaneously shielding it, lure the Queen's ship away, and blow it up with cold fusion bombs. They will then contain the explosion utilizing the shield generators that protect Area 51, which is their big research base and prison for the aliens that survived the first encounter. And why you just wouldn't execute them is so far beyond me. It's not even funny. But not my world.
They need to be interrogated.
Look, in the immediate aftermath, absolutely. We're 20 years down the line. I'm pretty sure at this point.
No, we learned from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, that you don't want to kill a species you don't want to make a species extinct, because what if another ship comes by looking for a signal and they're all dead? How do you recreate that signal like they did with the dolphins? And then you need humpback whales, You need humpback whales, so you have to go back in time to get them. We've learned not to do stuff like that so that we have humpback whales in case an aluminum can comes looking for them in space.
So what you're saying is the reason we haven't actually eradicated the smallpox virus is in case some extraterrestrial intelligence comes by and says, by the way, is this potentially virulent, deadly strain of virus existent on your planet or not? Because if not, we're going to wipe you all out. If it is here, however, don't give me that.
No, Star Trek 4, look, Star Trek 4 really is the blueprint to how we need to be behaving.
If you're trying to give me a stroke prior to our critical analysis, you're getting closer.
I have flawless logic.
No, what you have is circular logic.
All I'm saying is we don't want to kill the aliens in case we need them in the future. You never know, what evil lurks in the hearts of men, the shadow knows.
How exactly did you transition from this to an old radio? Never mind. I don't want to know how your mind. I don't want to know your thought processes. I really don't.
Go on.
In lieu of my individual ranting, we've just segued into this taking forever because we have sidebars. This plan works generally well. They are able to detonate. Again, Bill Pullman, as the former President Whitmore, is able to commit a good kamikaze mission, blowing up the Queen's ship, but lo and behold, she has her own set of personal shields. Somehow stronger than the ones... never mind, they got inside of that. No, still. I'm still calling it a little bit of BS there.
Why would you... you would want to protect your most important asset. You're talking about an insectoid civilization with a hive mind. You're going to protect the brain. Like it's,
the Queen would not have gone out individually to begin with.
Well, we need the giant T-Rex on the loose.
I disagree about the needing it, but since that was apparently a goal they had for this movie.
Every movie should have a giant T-Rex on the loose. Aliens vs. Predator, Independence Day Resurgence, Jurassic World. I'm waiting for the next Star Wars movie to have one.
Never mind. Not worth getting into. I have more faith in the director of that movie not to simply pour extraneous crap into it.
1 year and a half from now. And then the scene with the giant T-Rex happens. And I said, God damn you, Radulich.
If that happens, I will, on air, say that. Just for you.
All right, wrap this up. Let's go.
We are going to have to find... We're going to have to come up with a definitive explanation of what constitutes a giant T-Rex on the loose between now and then, though.
I just gave a few examples. An actual T-Rex.
I'm aware of your examples. We'll hash it out later. Anyway, she now starts charging the base because the shielding blocking the new alien was disrupted by the alien prisoners who got out because they should have been dead. But hey, I'm only talking sense here.
Nope. Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
You cite that one more time, I'm disconnecting you.
It's my account. You can't do that.
No. I have the. I think I can actually. I'm technically the host, and you're the caller.
I can keep calling in. I can disconnect you. I have access to more video. Go on, come on. Let's not play tiddlywinks here. Let's get this on with.
Anyway, the Queen charges across the Salt Flats, which are actually outside of Utah, not Nevada, but for the purposes of this movie, outside of Nevada. Again, attempting to recreate a relatively famous scene from the original. Her shields are disabled by the president's daughter, who took up flying but gave it up to take care of him and had a staff job with the current president, who died. Not William Fincher. She takes out her shields, but her airplane fighter jet is disabled in the process. The long-lost two-ship squadron of Will Smith's theoretical... It's actually Usher's kid, if memory serves. But if from a character perspective, the stepchild of Will Smith and Lesser Hemsworth come flying in, attempt to save the day. They wind up doing so after a protracted battle sequence, aerial battle sequence that is somehow visually more convoluted than necessary. The Queen dies. The drilling stops with what I have to imagine are mere seconds to spare before it actually would have punctured through the mantle and into the outer core of the planet. Slightly curious as to why the mantle wouldn't serve their purposes just as well. Why they didn't need to drill that deep. You just got to get down into the mantle, and then you can. Never mind. I know too much about the structure of the planet for this movie to make a whole lot of sense anyway.
Somebody was paying attention in earth science.
I didn't major in it. I know how basic structures work.
I didn't say majored. I said someone was paying attention in 7th grade earth science.
Yes, I was. Thank you.
Nerd.
Well, then you didn't have to go and say that. I paid attention. It didn't make me a nerd.
Whatever, Mortimer. Let's finish up.
Anyway, they defeat the Queen, the drilling stops, the ship is recalled. The alien life form that is on our side has a few pieces of praise for humanity and then says, by the way, since you're all still here and generally still intact, how about I give you the secrets to intergalactic travel, to interstellar travel, and you can lead the offensive against the alien homeworld in the next movie.
And Liam Hemsworth says, when do we get started?
Because we really needed that too.
All right. What's your first question for me? Let me give my 50 words or less here,
Go
and
ahead.
then I will, and then then you can sort of steer the ship here. But look, I'm not going to say I loved it. I mean, it's no Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Out of the Shadows.
Shut up.
But I was generally entertained. Characters. I was interested in the characters. The handful that were there that make it through, from one end of the movie to the other. I liked the Liam Hemsworth character. I thought he had, I wouldn't call it an arc, but he certainly has to sort of put on his big boy britches and take control of himself, as does his sidekick. He has some fear issues he's got to get over. The black kid, Will Smith's son, has some issues that he has to confront and deal with, and deal with in the movie. And they all have to come together, and they are disparate entities who have to come together and work as a team, which is a big thing in movies. And so, okay, I'm good with all of that. I liked Jeff Goldblum in this movie. I thought in this one he was less preachy and a little bit more serious, and I took the character a little bit more seriously. There's no government entity in this one going, oh, we need to do this, and we can't pay attention to that guy. None of that nonsense that you see in a lot of these movies where they never want to listen to they don't listen to Jeff Goldblum in the beginning, but it isn't like you see in every other movie where it's later on in the plot, and they've tried everything else and they still won't listen to him, that sort of thing. It was literally, as Robert said, it was they didn't know what it was and they weren't taking any chances. A little bit different. I thought the plot made sense as far as what the aliens wanted, what the obstacles the humans had, how they were able to overcome those obstacles. For the entire breadth of the movie, I was entertained. I said to Robert before the show started, I thought this movie took itself a little bit more seriously than the first one did. The first one was very cornball. It was rah rah shish kumbah. You have characters like the Randy Quaid character, who I thought was meant for like comic relief. And my God, if you go back and watch his performance at the very end of the movie, where he's mugging for the camera the entire time. I'm right here with you, President. Oh, Jesus. There's none of that in this movie. Everyone pretty much plays it straight, which, depending on your likes or dislikes in the movie, may be your reason for disliking this movie. If you wanted it to be more cheeseball, more cornball, then this was not going to be the movie for you. If you were looking for sort of an edgy sci-fi disaster porn mashup. Look, there's not a lot of sci-fi out there. Not a lot of straight sci-fi. A lot of it's sort of your action adventure that takes place in space. Star Trek. So I thought
Star Wars too at this point.
Star Wars has always been fantasy. It was never
true.
science fiction. So for those of us who want some degree of science fiction and are looking for a quasi-serious alien invasion movie that takes itself seriously and takes the world seriously, I thought this one lived up to that. I didn't personally see anything that wrong with it, though I can see some of the criticism that's out there. But overall, I thought it was okay. Yeah, I've said my piece.
So, you liked the characters, huh?
Yeah, I thought they were fine.
Liam Hemsworth, can you tell me his character's name?
Thor Jr.
How about his sidekick?
Wesley.
How about the president? Not Bill Pullman, the new one.
Hillary Clinton.
How about William Fincher's character, who becomes president by the end of the movie?
Zod. General Zod.
How about the Congolese warlord who tags along for no discernible reason?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Mufasa.
Yeah, you like them so much.
Listen, in my defense, I rarely remember anyone's name. You're lucky I remember your name.
That's not disproving my point. I spent this entire review, plot synopsis, and we'll spend the rest of the review referring to them by the actors' names, because that's infinitely more memorable than anything related to the actual characters.
No, if you ask me about character, individual obstacles that certain characters face, what was going on with them, I could tell you that. I think they're more three-dimensional than I think you're giving them credit for. I just can't remember anyone's name.
Yeah.
What?
You're not disproving my point or dissuading my opinion here.
I never do, but
that's not true.
I'm just saying that I thought there was more going on with these characters. I thought they went out of their way to establish the relationship between Bill Pullman's daughter, Will Smith's son, and Thor's brother. And I thought there was...
By out of the way, you mean a single picture on the inside of a flight locker.
No. They talk about how there was a relationship there between all three of them. They talk about how he almost killed the black kid. And the black kid's not, too happy about it. The black kid struggles with his, with his sort of being royalty at this point, as his father was an important figure who saved the world and all of that. This is all talked about in the movie. It's all grist for the mill. It was all dealt with. Here's the thing. With these ensemble movies, you really need, exceptional writing, Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien type writing, to have an ensemble cast and give everybody enough grist for the mill to keep it interesting. And
here's just a minor thought, let's remove 4 or 5 of these extraneous characters that take up screen time.
Okay, that's one way to do it. Or you can, give them just enough to make it competent writing and leave it at that. Look, I'm not saying these were 4-dimensional, exquisitely, depicted characters. I'm saying they were okay, but I wouldn't call them 2-dimensional either. I don't think that's fair. I think there's just enough there to keep them interesting and memorable, sans their names. And then we got to get to the alien killing people, or what are we here for? That's the thing.
I honestly couldn't tell you anything about almost any of them.
I don't know what movie you're watching or what you're doing. I
Same
don't know
one you were.
I can tell you. I mean, I'm dying for you to ask me, because I can tell you about their relationship, about their wants and needs, about their frustrations. I remember all that stuff.
Okay, then. The president's daughter.
Well, as you said before, she's in love with Thor's brother, but she has a almost brother sisterly like relationship with Will Smith's kid, and she doesn't like the fact that out of jealousy, out of cockiness, out of any number of gross emotions, he pulled a shit maneuver and tried to get him killed. And now she's kind of caught between the two of them. On top of which, she's frustrated with the fact that her father seems to be going crazy, and she had to give up a life of flying in order to take care of him. And up until it's proven that he's right in everything that he's saying, she thinks that he's just losing his mind. He's a crazy old man.
See, I didn't get any of the second half of what you said there out of the movie.
That's all there. Right at the beginning.
I get the the triangle relationship there, such as it is. I get that, but none of the rest of, and this is one of those things where I would have so much preferred we first of all cut some of the theoretically humorous dialogue in this movie. There is no legitimate humor in this entire movie.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you there.
And I'm going to say that again about Ghostbusters, and then you will argue with me, but that's for
You're
later.
wrong. The power
I will
of
not
Patty.
be wrong.
Nope, the power of Patty compels you. It's funny every
I would
time
bet you anything I go that entire movie without laughing.
Dude, you are also very much an outlier. Okay, so that's not fun. What'll be fun is if you go to that movie and take a little pad with you and you look around and you go to a full showing. Not the Tuesday afternoon that you go to where it's you and a pair of old people. Go to like opening night, okay?
I'm not spending extra money on this.
And I will send you the money. In a crowded theater.
Won't.
And I want you to write down every time you hear at least more than half the theater laugh.
No. Why would I? Hang on. That's not the point. People find everything funny. There were a couple of idiots in the theater watching this who laughed at a couple of occasions, and I wanted to reach back and smack them. Like, no, it's not funny.
You have said on this very show, my friend, that humor is entirely subjective.
I acknowledge humor is subjective. If you laughed at anything in this movie, you need to smack yourself with a fish.
Believe it.
Did you laugh at anything in this movie?
I don't know. It was late. I went to a 9:45 showing. I should have been asleep.
You're just proving my point.
I'm pretty sure I giggled at something.
I imagine if someone fell down next to you, it was probably that, because it couldn't have been anything on screen.
All right. You said you had questions. I want to hear your questions.
Oh, that was part of it. Okay, Jeff Goldblum. What is he the director of?
Interplanetary Affairs.
Really? That's what you're going with?
How close to right am I?
You're not that close.
Interstellar Affairs? Extraterrestrial Traffic?
Nope.
All right, let me try a serious one. Stargate.
No.
He's not the director of Stargate.
Well, Stargate's a completely different intellectual property. And Stargate was a completely military organization anyway that would not have had civilian oversight.
Research and development.
Nope.
He's the secretary of... He's the executive in charge of...
I can save you a lot of time by telling you they never explicitly state it in the movie.
Get me started. What's the first one?
Earth is the first word of the division that he's director of.
Earth Defense Systems.
Yeah, close.
Earth Defense... League.
No.
Earth
No
Defense.
closer than you. Look, I'm going to cut this short. If you want to know, look it up. I don't.
I don't care. No, still playing Angry Birds.
All right, yeah. He's the director of, I believe it's the Earth Space Defense.
Oh, I was close.
Which I said you were close. Which is a really weird division of labor in the sense that he would only be responsible for that which is which is non-terrestrial. As soon as things become terrestrial, he is no longer relevant. There would be a completely different division that actually dealt with terrestrial issues. Specifically, once the spaceship lands, his office no longer has any meaning. Because they're no longer in space, they are now on Earth.
Makes sense.
All right, let me get through a few of my major issues with this, and then we can move on. And my point of comparison for this movie is simply the first. I set a very low bar for this movie. I mentioned it last week. I just want you to be as good as the first. That's all I'm asking here. And
that's all I ask of you.
Please don't try to sing Phantom of the Opera.
Hey, good call, by the way.
I know some musical theater. I am a well-rounded, culturally read individual.
I never said otherwise.
I know. I'm just, you know me to a large degree. That's for the greater populace.
Okay.
You probably would have been more surprised if I'd missed that.
I really would have. I've been disappointed, to say the least.
Yeah, so. And here's one of the things about this. Like you said, the first one is not a great movie. It is painted very broadly. That being said, it manages to achieve a degree of emotional attachment to the characters that this one does not. And granted, this is not through great subtle writing. This is not through, subtext of acting or dialogue. It's very plain. It's very straightforward. But it remains, to a large degree, effective. You get a sense for the relationships between the characters. You care about the characters in the sense that you generally don't want them to die. And there's also a pacing issue that this movie has that the first one does not. The first one actually spends a surprising amount of time on appropriate setup. This one, we are full throttle right out of the gate. And it robs a lot of the action of any of its relevance or emotionally and borderline to the plot when it's happened 5 minutes ago. No, we had this, big plan of attack that didn't work. Well, here's another one. Well, no, it's still not going to work.
All right, can I talk a little bit about that real quick? I want to deal with the pacing of the movie because that's probably like the biggest issue.
Yeah, go ahead.
I concede your point that the first one was set up a lot better, but can we talk about how the fact that the first one was a gimmick movie? It was absolutely a gimmick movie. You were going to see, you were not going to see any of these people. This is like Bill Pullman's the president, by the way, and they don't have like Robert Redford or somebody. They put together like a B-level cast because you weren't there to see the actors. You were there to see the White House blow up. That's it. Once that happens, it's all about resolution. How are we going to resolve this? And that's exactly, that's what's happening in the movie. Now, this one wasn't a gimmick, okay? This one tried to tell a story. It was trying not to be, and I guess this is up for debate, but it was trying not to be a shot-for-shot remake of the first one, the way some sequels are.
Yeah, I'm going to contest that pretty heavily.
I don't think it was, because again, you go back and watch the first one, everything builds up to the whole reason you're there in the first place. Okay, is watching the monuments blow up the first time. This one, I mean, yeah, you're building up to...
Has no reason for you to pay to see it.
This one, you're building up to the aliens landing on the planet. But it really is an entirely different kind of movie. This one doesn't have a gimmick per se, and it's actually one of the problems they have with it is essentially
It would have been better if you gave it a gimmick.
No, I don't disagree with that. I like I said, this is why I said the movie's just okay, because I feel like the big weapon that this thing has is gravity. I mean,
That doesn't work that way either.
It's okay, great, good contribution. Look, if you think about like what was the aliens' plan of attack, the aliens' plan of attack was land and start drilling. That's it. That's all they did. At least in the first one, it was send out these ships and one by one knock out these cities. Okay, that's fun to watch. That's interesting. That has you on the edge of your seat. This one, by virtue of the fact that it's landing and it has its own gravity, so it sweeps up all of Asia as it's coming down, and then as it's finally landing, it drops it on London. And I thought if you're going to say anything's a gimmick in this movie, that's the gimmick scene. But it was such a mishmash. It runs between, the Tower of London and Big Ben and Parliament children, all that being smashed, and then it switches over to Judd Hirsch, who's in this movie for some odd reason.
Does not need to be in this movie any more than Vivica A. Fox did. I love Judd Hirsch as a general rule. His character and that entire everything his character does, and incidentally, everything his character is kind of connected to, in this case, a bunch of kids fleeing devastation, cut it out. Just cut it out, remove 15 minutes of runtime, let's give it to other things. Let's get a scene where, the president's daughter winds up expressing her kind of frustration and resentment of him and her conflict about that. Let's deal with it. They touched on a really kind of interesting thing earlier in this movie about, 20 years ago, a massive percentage of the population of this planet was destroyed. Rebuilding from that, all the displacement, all the problems, the generation of orphans.
I would have liked to have gone, to July 6th, start the movie July 6th, and just show and kind of walk us through the short 20 years of rebuilding rather than his entire plot line. And normally I'm the one that's like, no, you need a sense of humanity. You need to see how this is affecting the regular people. It's the war without consequences kind of a thing, which you try to avoid. Except that you didn't really get that with him. You got that a little bit with the kids, but then you needed to establish them earlier. They fucking came out of nowhere.
Yeah, they're trying to have him do the Randy Quaid thing from the first movie, where he kind of was that vehicle for you to watch the common man, as well as, Vivica A. Fox. They had set up characters in the first one whose purpose was to show you devastation, loss, things of that nature once it happened. Here, it's like, well, we did it in the first movie, so we have to do it in this one. Much like Will Smith's stepson making jokes about Close Encounters, and it's got to take the climactic sequence has to take place on the Salt Flats.
I was okay with all that, but
I wasn't. That's why I brought it up.
But no, that was my really only big issue, is that I thought from a visual standpoint, I thought those scenes were kind of a mess. From a storytelling standpoint, I was like, wow, you have a much weaker, you have a much weaker plot in a sense than you do in the first one, in terms of what the alien menace is. So, I'm pitching you two movies. In one movie, flying saucers appear over big cities across the world and simultaneously blow them up, and then we have to retaliate. Okay, what's your other picture? A big ship lands, and when it does, it picks up a continent and drops it on top of another continent. Make the first movie. That's it. That was the movie. And so that's like my biggest gripe with it was like, okay, I guess, in terms of watching destruction porn, it's okay. It was fun to see Asia get dropped on top of London, I guess, but it's less interesting to me than, as I said, flying saucers, et cetera, et cetera. That's really like my big gripe with the movie.
Uh, this movie is. I mean, I should have mentioned this. This is another bloated movie from this summer, which is our theme apparently.
Overstuffed movies, gotta love them.
Look, Judd Hirsch and the kids could have been cut. Lesser Hemsworth's sidekick should have died. Just straight up died at some point.
Maybe to give the movie a little bit more emotion, but I guess they figured they had it covered with Vivica Fox fucking dying. Well, that scene was horrifying.
It was so stupid. It's like, yeah, hey, here's this kid, and because he comes across as a little bit of a ponce, and we've mentioned royalty, and well, that doesn't play well in America. We need to make him more identifiable, so let's kill his mom. That works for everybody, right?
Yeah. We have to create stakes here, you see.
It's one thing to have stakes. It's another thing to just like, oh, well, this guy is unrelatable and unlikable. How are we going to fix it? Kill his family. That fixes everything.
But I'll tell you what, it worked. I mean, maybe not
didn't work.
No, shut up. It does work, and I'll tell you why. People audibly reacted to Vivica Fox's death in the theater. And again, I'm going to tell you, just like I tell everybody else, just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean it doesn't work for the vast majority of the movie audience. The people in the audience that I saw it with all reacted viscerally when Vivica Fox died. They
were shocked that a name actress died in a big budget movie.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with her character, his character. It was, well, she's a doctor now, so she's clearly going to live, and then, swerve.
Okay. I'm just saying, you're trying, movies are about trying to evoke reactions and emotions, and in that case it did.
When your reaction pertains more to things outside of the film than inside of the film, I think you've failed fundamentally.
Okay, well, just letting you know how things went in my hood.
I maintain people reacted because Vivica Fox died, not because little Dylan Hiller lost his mommy.
Okay.
Anyone out there who had a different experience, by all means, let Mark know, let me know.
I guarantee you there were people that were like, hey, she's no longer a stripper, she's a doctor, she should have lived. Poor thing.
Sure, there are people voting for Donald Trump. Of course, they're also... God, no.
Oh, that's right.
I feel like my soul is at stake if I cast a vote for Hillary Clinton. I will have to justify that decision to God Almighty on my judgment day, and I'm not sure I'd be able to.
So you're going to vote for Gary Johnson and have your vote essentially not matter? I
disagree with you about it not mattering.
Okay.
So normally, hey, I'll tell you, we're probably going blue this year.
Are you serious?
Oh, Mormons hate Trump.
Well, we'll see what happens. That'd be such a shit state for him to lose. But anyway, we're not here to talk about politics.
Oh, please. We have 3 electoral votes.
No, listen. Elections have been made by less.
Look, our state and Nevada are the 2 that I think might go third party overall this year. And that's about it, but...
Well, it'll certainly be an interesting election if that happens. Can we get back to the movie, though?
Either that or just nobody shows up to vote because we hate Clinton, we hate Hillary, and we hate Trump. And unless you're educated about third parties, you just kind of think that, well, I can't make a correct choice.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to tell you is that most people are just not going to vote. That's been my argument for how he wins this election is nobody shows up to vote. And the only people that do are like the angry, they took my job people.
All right. Before we move on, we have someone who just called in. Shall we do this, Mark?
Oh, no. All right. I'm turning off Angry Birds for this. I'm excited.
All right.
Go.
Area code 438. You have achieved the monumental task of getting Mark to abandon his Flash game. Who are you? What's on your mind?
My name is Stanley. I've called before. Concerning that movie, Independence Day, I didn't like it. It was unbelievably. I don't understand. Can you really explain to me this? Why is there a lot of story, especially this year, that I think you and a lot of people who seem to know about stories and seem to know there's a beginning, there's supposed to make sense, that it still makes it in the movie? I don't understand. It was like, really? The queen gets killed and everybody gets scared. As soon as you kill the queen, everybody's dead. You know?
They're playing on the idea of it's an insectoid alien species with a hive mind. They set that up in the first movie. They repeat it again in this one. And so the idea is, so like, let's say I mean, Mr. Wizard might be able to explain this better than I can. But let's say you're talking about bees, right, or wasps, and then if you kill the queen, then the rest cease operations, and and they're effectively useless. That's what they're going with here. Is that essentially the aliens are sort of a drone community centered around a variety of queens. Another example of this is actually the xenomorphs from the Alien series, or again, drones connected to a queen with laid eggs, et cetera, et cetera.
The slight difference in this case is they establish early on they established in the first movie there's a psychic or telepathic connection that works with all of them, and because they probably evolved from some hive like species to begin with, that telepathy would have replaced all the chemical signals and whatnot that work now, and shutting off the functioning brain to millions of drones who do nothing.
They were less centered on the kill the queen, everybody dies kind of a thing. It was more of a Phantom Menace issue where if you blew up the mothership, then the shields all come down and you can attack the ships. If you remember correctly, the problem they had with the first movie was the shields were more powerful than our missiles were, our regular missiles and bullets. So what they needed to do was knock the shields out, and they did that by blowing up the mothership, giving it a virus, basically. So the shield came down, then they could attack one-to-one.
I understand that part and everything, but when they came and invaded the Earth, they almost destroyed it. Just the coming up with a big ship that destroyed the city, destroyed this, destroyed that. I was like, you're done. And suddenly they have no technology. They're done. They've been prepared for 20 years. They're like, oh, let's work together. We're going to make it. In the famous speech, and suddenly, we're going to find a way. And even the person who's in the other planet saying, it's never been done. It's never been done. I came here on this planet to save you guys. I ain't coming here to tell you how to kill the queen.
Okay, you didn't like it. I can appreciate that. It didn't make sense to you. I liked it. To me, it flowed. I'm okay with being
It's not the worst movie of the summer. It's not the worst movie of the summer. But it opens up Independence Day 3, which is going to be us attacking them, I guess. That opened that door.
I'm curious, what in your opinion was the worst movie of the summer so far?
Ooh. Oh boy.
Please say Turtles.
Please don't.
No. Oh, I gotta go for what you said. Batman versus Superman. That's
okay.
That was the movie I was looking forward. That was the movie when I heard they were editing for 2015 and they said, we're going to push it for 2016. I was like, good. They're going to make it even better. Good. I was like, let me see it before. And I was going to go see it normal screen and IMAX and pay a lot of money. I don't mind it doing this. Like Avatar, I saw it 7 times, whatever. So I was like, let me see it in normal screen. If I like it, I'm going to go see it in IMAX and see the special project. As soon as I walked in, like you said, when you did the review of Batman Superman, you said everything that everybody felt. I was like, wow. And you edited it? Wow. I could have done a better story than that. You guys could have done a better story than that. And I don't understand. I don't.
Yeah.
That's the question I want to ask you guys. How come I don't? They have so much money. Why don't they consult with people who are comic book, who knows the story, could come with ideas,
Well, I'll tell you, Warner Brothers actually is consulting with some of the people that run DC. But if you ask some of our partners over at the Casual Heroes, that's a terrible idea because the people that run DC are running it into the ground.
There's an argument there.
Let me this about Warner Brothers. They've been struggling for years with their movies, not just with the DC properties, but they Warner. If you watch the documentary, the Death of Superman, What Happened, I think is the name of it. It actually talks about how one of the reasons why that movie got shit canned was Warner Brothers released a string of terrible big budget movies, and it was costing them an arm and a leg, and they literally just didn't have the finances available to finish the Nicolas Cage Superman movie, which is
We're
why
all better off for that. That was divine providence.
Yeah, it was better off for that. But Batman versus Superman, the publicity, the time when they said they were any day, I thought they were constantly people who are comic book people did. They were going to, before we put it in the movie, let's get a screening to people in the screen so they could see, do you like it, do you don't? All those things, 2015 to prepare. And they could have changed many things. Please, Lex Luger? Come on, man. This is Lex Luger.
Right.
This guy was trying to act like the Joker.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people
and not
hated
even a good Joker. Not even a good Joker. I was like, this is Joker. This is not Lex Luger. Lex Luger doesn't have those things. Lex Luger is a guy, I'm very intelligent. I'm the most intelligent person in this world, and you're taking my shit. I'm supposed to be the one that everybody's supposed to look at me, not you. And that's why I want to go against you. I don't trust you because you're a superhero. That's Lex Luger. Not a little frightening person say, come on.
All right. Thank you for calling, sir. Thank you for listening. We certainly appreciate your input here.
Can
you
keep me on the phone and every day I want to listen to the rest of your show, what you're going to have to say
we'll keep
for the movie. Thank
no problem.
you.
Well, that was nice. All right. Are we done with reviewing this? Because we are running scant on time unless I throw up another half an hour, and we've got 2 other segments to do.
I'm going to throw up the extra half hour.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Look, if we end early, we end early. It's better than, relying on overrun that may or may not be there.
All right. Go fix it and say your piece.
I did. We're good.
Okay.
All right, the last thing. I want to say something positive about this movie because...
You?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Please, be my guest. I'll shut up.
It looks great. The visuals in this movie... I agree with you about the editing of the landing of the mothership. That could have been better. Apart from that, a slightly visually confusing sequence, the rest of it looks gorgeous.
Sure.
And
fire in the sky goes.
Yeah. Well, come on. I mean, I'm
not complaining.
The CGI did not make my eyes bleed, and I'm very grateful for that.
Woo! Wow, the CGI must be incredible. Okay, I know what to look for now in my Rotten Tomatoes. Anything that says the CGI looks bad, so you can yell at those people. Because if Robert Winfree likes the CGI, then you know it's a winner.
Minor exception for the Alien Queen. Not her. Hang on, I need to be specific about this. Not the scene wherein she is rampaging through the salt flats, and you see her when she's. When the suit is the thing moving, it's generally okay. Any of the times when she's staring at the camera, not so much. And then the scene where she falls out of the suit at the end, not so much. But by and large, I mean, again, minor nitpicks with those sequences aside, I thought it was good. I have very few complaints about it, apart from, again, 1 or 2 very specific sequences that were put together. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're watching computer-generated imagery, but anything of this scale, that going into it. They're not actually going to, build anything of that appropriate magnitude and then destroy it. It's just not feasible. But as far as this wasn't the worst CGI I've seen this year. By the Doomsday fight from Batman v Superman is the worst I've seen. But I didn't see the Turtles movie, so I can't actually comment on how crappy it looked. The trailers looked
No. Turtles was perfect.
Trailers looked crappy. And I'm not having that debate with you. Because I would have to actually watch it, and I'm not putting myself through that.
was the best movie of the summer.
That is only a massive indictment of everything else.
Turtles made more sense than Civil War.
I really don't. Again, I can't comment, and I think you're underselling, Finding Dory as being the best actual movie.
No, Finding Dory was good too. I should retract my statement. Turtles was the best non-Pixar movie.
Well, go ahead and say it. Turtles was the best crap movie, because all we've had so far are basically crap movies.
All right. I really don't have, like I said, anything else to say. This, to me,
people do not see this movie simply because I do not want there to be sequels. If this performs badly enough, they won't make more.
Well,
you're
set
another
for the next segment here, and
am.
You're going to be. You go ahead and hit the music because you're going to be sorely disappointed.
I am not going to be sorely disappointed. Actually, I've seen the numbers, and you hit the you hit the music for that one. I hit the Michael Scott.
Goodness gracious. Where it's what? Where I don't know.
I don't know. What one do you use?
Where is it? God damn it. Money, here comes the money in the bank, and where?
I think it was Here Comes the Money, so it should be H.
Did we lose it? There it is.
No, we didn't.
Here
there it
comes
is.
the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money,
Dollar, dollar.
After that riveting bit of radio, Mark, let's talk about the money.
Like me hemming and hawing into the microphone. All right, $165 million budget. This thing tanked in the U.S. Nobody went to go see this fucking thing. It was me and a bunch of Mexican families. That's it. That's all that saw this movie. However, it did do pretty well across the seas in foreign lands. It brought in $115 million. As far as the weekend went.
Number 2 behind Dory, if memory serves.
Yes, sir. No, Dory's number 1, second week in a row. Friday night.
Didn't Dory still do like $70 million?
Something like that. It did $16 million, then $14 million on Saturday, and then, $10 million on Sunday. For the last 2 days, it's done $3 million and $5 million. So, people are still seeing it. But it's currently sitting at, like I said, $165 million for the year. So it's at budget. As we say, it's got to do twice that. But they've already set this up for sequels. They're not just going to let it lie. If
it doesn't make any more money. Right now, it's at a loss.
I don't think they took a complete bath on this, and I think at this point they're invested enough, Fox is, to at least see it through. Give us one more chance. Let's see if we can pull ourselves out of the doldrums. And if Warcraft is any indicator, if you can make a movie and your money is made overseas, they'll go ahead and continue to greenlight movies that did shitty in the U.S. because they'll just make them for overseas markets. They'll put more foreign-born actors in them. They'll shoot in more foreign locations outside the U.S. and the movies will be for them. We'll still see them because who knows, maybe we'll actually go see these movies. But let me say this. We started at the top of the show with why this movie was probably destined to fail in the U.S., and here's why. 20 years later, on a property that has no buy-in from younger folks is not a good idea. See, Turtles, I'm surprised it actually didn't do as well as I thought it might have, because at least generationally you still continue to have buy-in from kids. The Turtles fans haven't gone anywhere. They've only gone up in numbers. To this day, there's a show on Nickelodeon for kids to watch. There are toys sitting on shelves.
It has been for basically the duration of my lifetime.
Turtles video games, Turtles costumes. Kids know Ninja Turtles. My kids are 5 and 2, and they know what the Ninja Turtles are. So I'm a little shocked that we didn't do better. So you don't have that with the Independence Day. You have a couple of books that were written after the first Independence Day in 1996, but that's it. Other than that, unless you saw the thing on cable, this generation of people don't know what an Independence Day is in terms of the movie, and so you're talking about. I mean, let's look at this podcast alone. We do a podcast every single week, just about, and we look at what is probably going to be the number one movie or close to the number one movie of that weekend. And
I die a little inside.
And even for us, it feels like sometimes we have to sort of push ourselves out the door to go see some of these things. Now, if you're not somebody doing a podcast who isn't pushing themselves to go see these movies, what motivates you to go see Independence Day unless you're a huge fan of destruction porn, in which case you probably already went and saw X-Men Apocalypse. You know, there were plenty of movies this summer that we've talked about that saw a significant portion of the world get blown up. And if you didn't like it this year, you had plenty from last year to go to and the year before that. So my point is, Independence Day is no longer a niche film. It's no longer, it doesn't even work as a gimmick film anymore. It's kind of the same old hat. It's run of the mill. There's nothing special about it. We've seen the world get blown up now a few times. Unless you've got another reason to buy into this is one you skip. And that's why it's not doing, and that's one of the reasons it's not doing particularly well. Other people have surmised that it's not doing well because Will Smith isn't in it. And I would go ahead and tell you, I don't think that's true.
I think it would be doing better with Will Smith. I don't think it would be doing monumentally better.
No, I don't think Will Smith saves this movie.
No, look, I have a lot of respect for Will Smith as a general rule. I was born in 1985. So, you know, again, as a kid in the late 80s into the early 90s and even to the early to mid 90s, Will Smith was kind of a big deal. That being said, I mean, you and I have mentioned this in the past. I think there is a grand total of one person whose name alone will actually sell tickets.
His name is The Rock.
No. I do not think that's true.
Really? You think people went to go see San Andreas last year because they like watching earthquakes?
Let me rephrase. The Rock has some. Let me rephrase appropriately for this. The Rock has a bit of box office draw. That's true. He does not. He is far from impervious. He needs the correct vehicle. Something like San Andreas draws. Something like The Tooth Fairy does not. Something like the sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth does not draw. Doesn't matter if The Rock's in it. Doesn't draw. The only actor right now who is, I believe, somewhat impervious to that phenomenon, and you put their name on it, people are going to pay to see it, is Tom Cruise. And I don't like Tom Cruise a whole lot, but his name sold Jack Reacher. It's not a great movie. It's a good cable movie, but in and of itself is not a great film. But Tom Cruise's name attachment got people to see it and got a sequel that's coming out later this year, if memory serves.
I totally thought you were going to say Melissa McCarthy, by the way.
Why in God's name would I say that? It's fundamentally untrue.
That's not true, actually. Her movies do Adam Sandler type numbers. I mean, like Adam Sandler.
And they're also about the same quality.
We were talking box office, not quality.
I know. Oh, no, she's had a couple. She's had a few that did very, very well. That's absolutely true. She's also had 2 or 3 that tanked.
I would say, like I said, if I go back and look, I think having this argument with Gavin, I would say she's got more successes than failures because most of her movies were made for $1.50.
Very true as well. That's intelligent movie making. You keep the budget as low as possible to minimize your risk. That said, I think Tammy and the Boss still tanked.
Let's have to go back and look at it.
I may be wrong about that, but and again, others of hers have done very, very well. But there's 3 or 4 that I don't think did.
And Ghostbusters is on track to make $1 billion.
So says you.
My analysis was never wrong.
Oh, that's fundamentally untrue as well. You've made my sort of cat sad with that. Hey, shut up and get out of here. Get
Sort of cat.
Sorry, this cat that kind of hangs around, he was hit by a car or something. There's something fundamentally wrong with this animal, so I joke that he's not really a cat.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
Yeah, that's a song.
It is a song.
Yeah, it's from the
Right.
Aristocats. I know what it is. I just don't think very highly of it.
So, in short, after all is said and done, I get
Well,
why.
hang on. This movie, look, I agree with you about this movie, and its marketing issues. You can't rely on 20-year-old nostalgia, which is kind of what they were going for as far as their marketing campaign goes. You liked this the first time. First one was a massive success. Cannot be. I'm not sure I could oversell.
But it was also 1996. We weren't like in the full throes of, a.
And look, again, I'm not disagreeing with your analysis about why it's failing. I'm pointing out that their thought process and their marketing and elements of their filmmaking were, well, you liked this the first time, you'll like it this time, and no, by this point we've seen it, and we've seen it done a lot better.
What? Oh, I'm thinking. In fact, I would say there's actually some backlash now to the destruction porn thing. And when you think about, and I don't want to get into a huge, long discussion about this, but you think about the amount of complaining that took place after Man of Steel, where they destroyed Metropolis. Again, more destruction porn.
No. People complained about it because, well, that's not my Superman.
But no, they also complained because they're like, okay, here we have a movie with, where there's a wholesale destruction of the city, and the superhero didn't save anybody. That was one of the big problems they had.
The chief complaint that people unable to actually think about the movie outside of their own inflated expectations about what they wanted out of it.
Well, my point being that what we might be seeing with Independence Day, and this is just speculation on my part, wild speculations, what we do here. There just might be some backlash to the idea of just wholesale destruction porn for the sake of destruction porn.
There probably is. I mean, part of the reason for that, and this is the last thing I want to say about this real briefly. Very good filmmakers at this point have been able to successfully integrate large-scale destruction into a good story in a good movie. And I think that one of the reasons there's a lot of backlash to it at this point is if that's all you're bringing to the table, again, we've seen it before and we've seen it better. You have to bring more than that.
Yes, you have to actually tell a decent story, or have stuff. I mean, San Andreas was, you just watched the city get destroyed, but it had The Rock in it, and The Rock was flexing muscles and swimming, and there was you had the girl plays the daughter who was fun to look at. So there were some things going on.
You have The Rock, you have attractive women, you have big-scale destruction, and you tell a somewhat decent story about a man looking to kind of reconnect his family in the face of massive, potentially worldwide devastation. Sure, it works.
Let him win a chicken dinner.
Here it's, hey, look at this spaceship. It's huge. It's going to crash. And, we're going to fight it and we're going to win. And here's these people who you don't care about, who we barely even bother to name.
I will also tell you, and the guys from Red Letter Media pointed this out, that they went out of their way with the first one to sort of reference Star Wars, with the one-to-one spaceship dogfights. And we already have, and now we have Star Wars back. I know to you that means nothing, but to the rest of us nerds,
it doesn't mean nothing. It just means less to me than to, I dare say, the average human being at this point.
So for the rest of us nerds, we've already got Star Wars. We don't need your second fiddle, highfalutin Independence Day Star Wars knockoff when we've already got the real thing, and we're getting it every year now. So I think
that just depresses me a little bit.
one of the things they said was, with Fox having lost the franchise, Star Wars franchise, they needed something to replace it, and I think they're counting on Independence Day to be that thing. Now, look, they're starting kind of out of the gate here, but they can turn this around with another movie. Hear me out on this. They can turn this around with another movie where they actually go to the alien homeworld, and we can kind of get the stuff that I think people wanted with the Aliens franchise but never got. So there's hope here. There's hope that they set up at the end of this movie with the humans taking the fight to the xenomorphs, out in space, and by not giving them kind of a homeworld and making them sort of the Vikings of space, where they're just out there sailing the seas of cheese. It's a Primus reference. They don't necessarily. This can go on for as many movies as they.
I was really kind of hoping you'd go with Futurama. you could have easily gone with For Whalers on the Moon.
No, you know more Futurama references than I do by far.
I know.
Depending on how many movies we're willing to see and how many movies they're willing to make, because there's no homeworld necessarily for us to go and destroy, this could go on forever. So, here's the Fox. Here's the Fox. At least you're not Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I think Warner Brothers at least makes a couple of good movies a year. I mean, sure, they fail spectacularly here and there, but I don't think Fox has made a movie I've positively reviewed all year. I have to double check that.
So here's where we are right now. Worldwide box office for the year.
This thing's not cracking the top 5. It's going to be lucky to crack the top 10.
This is a dog shit year so far for summer movies. When we get to our summer end spectacular, I mean, it's the same old story.
You don't even need me for that. All you need is that clip of Jay Sherman going, "It stinks."
Captain America still number one with over $1 billion.
Which
Zootopia,
I did basically enjoy, and Zootopia was good.
Zootopia is number 2 with over $1 billion. Just short of $1 billion is The Jungle Book. Then you have Batman v Superman, still at 872. Who, the Ultimate Edition 3-hour cut is out there today. If people want to buy that, I did. Deadpool's
you
in at number 5.
didn't you?
No, I like the movie. We've been over this. Deadpool's in at $780 million, and then we still have that mermaid movie. Kung Fu Panda is still in the top 10. That's how bad the summer movies have been. There's so little movement. There's been so little movies have been cracking the top 10 that they can't get rid of the one from January.
It's true.
Warcraft is in at number 10 thanks to Chinese Chinaman. Finding Dory's at number 9. That's tearing up the charts.
That's going nowhere but up.
Yeah. We'll see if it gets the Zootopia numbers. If it does, it knocks Deadpool out of the top 5. X-Men Apocalypse is hanging in there at number 7. And then there's, like I said, The Mermaid. So that's worldwide gross. Domestic gross, it's Captain America, Deadpool, Jungle Book, Zootopia, Batman, Finding Dory, X-Men, still Kung Fu Panda. The Angry Birds is in the top 10 with $105 million. And right along to, you have 2 movies, folks. 2 movies still in the top 10 from fucking January. That's how bad the summer is going. Whether it's sequel fatigue, whether it's tentpole fatigue.
I got a real theory here about why most of these movies aren't cracking into aren't knocking off some of those January ones.
Go ahead.
Because they're not good.
Uh-oh, the jig is up.
Guys, people are listening to me. The movie's bad. They're not seeing it. Thank you.
They're not seeing it in America. It's this whole other story across the seas.
Well, when you have to deal with some of the translation issues and potential editing that has to go on for different markets, some of them just work better overseas.
And with that, are you? I got all the critics. Okay, this movie was panned. By the way, Tarzan's at like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I told you before. This is not going to be good. The CGI is terrible.
Yeah.
You're relying on the appeal of a character who hasn't been relevant in culture for 30, 40, 50 years. My lifetime, Tarzan has not been a relevant character. Now, whether that's fair or not, whether that is the high watermark of that character's potential is not the issue here. The issue is marketing. The issue is anyone going to see Tarzan? Because how many people saw previews and went, "What's Tarzan?"
Well, it's currently sitting at 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 98% of people want to go see it. In comparison, The Purge election year, which comes out the same weekend, is at 68%, and the movie I'll be seeing next Tuesday with my wife, the BFG, the Steven Spielberg Disney joint jam, is at 71%.
I am shocked that The Purge election year is being that well reviewed. I'm going to go out on a minor limb here and say it's a bunch of reviewers who are dissatisfied with the current crop of political candidates and see elements of this as somehow representative when really it's just a crappy horror movie. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy crappy horror movies. Come on.
Watch it win the weekend.
It might. We're talking about the third movie in a franchise that has been profitable all the way along, and the first two are they weren't the worst horror movies of their respective years.
All right, you ready?
Sorry, what was that?
Are you ready for our final segment, sir?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I'm not cracking a beer. This is water.
Swig of water for the working man. Another shot at Steve Austin.
Bro, I tell you, and I swear to God, bro, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. During the Attitude Era, I was Italian. Okay, Gary Shannon from the Young
I'm not
Turks.
entirely sure that's the most accurate statement Vince Russo's ever made, even.
Independence Day Resurgence is more or less what I expected out of a sequel, a moderately entertaining follow-up inferior to the original in every way. Well, I don't think that's fair.
It's inferior to the original in every way. I would challenge moderately entertaining. It is baseline entertaining at best. That's something of an insult to moderately engaging movies.
All right. I'm going to read this one slowly because if I read it too fast, it'll make even less sense than what I'm actually reading.
Ooh,
okay?
goody.
This is Marianne Johansson, a flick philosopher, and she decided to do this one in character. Folks, this is someone who gets paid to do this, okay? Preface of report of readiness of planet YD56201.3 to join Galactic Alliance. The Invitation Committee fears that this fictional popular entertainment reflects human tendencies to illogic, lack of imagination, and rank sentimentality.
Okay. Let's start with just how fundamentally stupid the premise of writing a review in complete gimmick format like that is, or even putting one out there for a substantial enough portion to be the excerpt from your review. Fundamentally, poor decision making. Second, congratulations, you managed to alienate 85% of any person who might actually click on your review. Third, this movie is the antithesis of sentimentality in the sense that it has none.
Okay. This is actually a fresh review, but it made me laugh. So.
Gimme.
Jason Best of Movie Talk. The new film isn't so much a reprise of ID4 as it is a combination of tribute act and reunion tour.
I can kind of get behind that sentiment.
Rohan Nahar of the Hindustan Times says, just like Quentin Tarantino with feet and Nicholas Winding Refn with hands, Roland Emmerich too has a fetish. It involves CGI.
Roland Emmerich, his whole thing is he destroys large scales of the planet. And somewhat in his defense, he is generally pretty good at it. I'm sorry if that constitutes news to this individual who's apparently not watched movies in the last at least the last 5 years, because 2012 came out in November of 11, if memory serves.
Jay Olson of Cinema Mixtape. The movie equivalent of ordering a popsicle on a sweltering summer day only to be served the stick.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Israel Acosta Arosh, Conexion, a completely unnecessary sequel.
Yep. If you have to wait 20 years to get your sequel made, unnecessary is the kindest thing you can say about it.
Oh, Alan Hunter disagrees with me at the Daily Express UK. It is undoubtedly corny, exceptionally cheesy, and very American in its gung-ho simplicity. But as escapist entertainment on an epic scale, it is a guilty pleasure. Yeah, this isn't nearly as cornball as the first one.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. This one has much cheesier dialogue, which is odd considering the first movie. And believe me, I'm aware of how...
Cheesy, maybe. I wouldn't call it cheesy. I think it's just poorly written. And I don't have a problem with the dialogue. I think corny dialogue is, I'm right here with your president. I'm going to go all the way. Hey, assholes, I'm back. That's corny. Okay? That's cornball dialogue. This might have, and again, I don't have a problem.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's true. This is not corny. It's just bad.
Okay. I disagree, but, I'm not going to have that argument.
Dialogue in this movie is bad, Mark.
Well, Ed Whitfield from the Utrecht agrees with you. We're going to kick some alien ass, cries a trying Brent Spiner, who once played TV's most measured intellect in a show about tolerance, diplomacy, and universal understanding.
Hey, don't hate on Brett Spiner getting paid, all right?
Okay. David Sims of The Atlantic's top critic went a little crazy here. It's a non-movie, an insult to the blockbuster genre, and should stand only as a perfect example of Hollywood's more glaring deficiencies as an industry.
I accept his criticism only if that was copy and pasted from his review of Fantastic Four. Otherwise, no, you are fundamentally wrong on just about every conceivable level.
Wait, this is
not a non-movie. It's a bad movie. There's a difference. Fantastic Four, or, the Four Stick, because, hey, it's an A, was a non-movie. Nothing happened in that movie. Nothing. That was nothing. This is at least disaster porn. I can qualify it. It's not good, but it is at least quantifiable, discussionable, and, again, better than Fantastic Four.
Well, let's see. He gave Central Intelligence a 66%. He gave, I take that back. He rated Central Intelligence fresh. He rated Warcraft rotten. He rated Popstar fresh. X-Men Apocalypse rotten.
Okay, this guy's no. This individual, no. You got a job because you got a degree with, and your roommate was somebody's uncle. All right, no. The fact that he gave a fresh rating to Popstar is really all the clarification I need about his abilities, his credentials, and quite frankly, his sense of humanity, because anyone who tries to defend an Andy Samberg vehicle like that is just, we're better off without you. Go play in traffic.
Hey, not for nothing, Winfree, but that one was 70% certified fresh. 76%
you people disgust me.
Moving right along.
I assume that the only reason you would possibly give that a positive review is that you attempted to ascribe some level of satire and intelligence to it that it simply doesn't have.
Stephanie Zatarek from Time Magazine, top critic, says, "You can forgive Independence Day Resurgence for being ridiculous. Its predecessor was too, but you can't forgive it for being boring. We've said it once, we'll say it a million times. Boring is a subjective criticism, not an objective criticism. You hack."
I agree with that. I will say this. There are stretches of this movie that are boring. You and I, again, the pacing of this thing is all over the place. To call it boring on the whole, I mean, again, if you were bored by it, that's okay. I mean, again, stretches of it bored me too. Calling the film on the whole boring when there are huge sections of time devoted to big action sequences, if you clarify this as you don't care about the characters, the action's a little muddled at times, and it's repetitive, all of which is true, that doesn't necessarily constitute boring. And again, I know people who think The Godfather is boring. I don't know them anymore, but I did at one point.
Kurt Loder of MTV fame says, and he's currently writing for Reason Online, "It's hard to say what's worse about this movie. Its shoddiness, which is abundant, or its cynicism, no surprise in a sequel, quote unquote, slapped together 20 years after the picture whose enduring popularity it seeks to exploit."
I'm not sure how he got to cynicism.
Yeah, what the fuck? Hey, the disaster of 96 brought us all together. Yeah, I can see where you get cynical out of that.
This is not a cynical film. Overly nostalgic, sure. Shoddy in places, sure. Poorly paced, sure. Flat characters, sure. I'm really at a loss as to how he arrived at cynical. Unless he means greedy, in the sense that a 20-year-old sequel, well, you're all stupid, so you'll pay to see a sequel to a 20-year-old movie, in which case, no, you were wrong. No, this is not a cynical film in terms of either production or story. I don't get that at all.
Luke Y. Thompson of Nerdist writes, "Since embracing CG wholeheartedly, Emmerich has truly unleashed his inner Beavis and Butthead."
I never watched Beavis and Butthead.
Oh boy, you're missing out.
What?
Sorry,
you said something there?
Yes, sir.
I don't think I missed out. I'm not sure. So my point there is I'm not entirely sure what comparison he is drawing. However, I will say this. Emmerich is actually better when he's able to mix practical effects with special effects. Practical computer effects is how I should phrase that. And look, there's a couple of his movies I have defended in the past and will defend in the future. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you want to throw the guy under the bus for only making disaster porn, fine, it doesn't appeal to you. Maybe you even think the whole genre is crap. And you're more than welcome to your opinion. There are whole genres I think are crap. Doesn't fundamentally make me right.
Here's another person who gets paid to review movies who doesn't understand how his job works. Stephen Whitty, Newark Star-Ledger top critic. "I didn't like Independence Day Resurgence. You probably won't either." That man got paid to write that sentence.
Wait, hold on, you out there. I am 90% sure this will never reach your ears, but on the off chance that it does, I really have to say this. I understand that all human beings are biased. We all come from a point of bias. We have all lived differently. Every single thing about our lives conspires to make us who we are, and on very fundamental levels provides us a degree of bias. There's nothing wrong with this. This is not a bad thing. This is a fact of existence. bringing your bias into that on that level without further qualifying it is borderline irresponsible. I've said there are things that I don't like. Again, let us, since I just talked about it, Andy Samberg's crappy pop star movie. Bunch of you people liked it. Critics. Bunch of people probably saw it. I bet a fair amount of them liked it. I didn't like it. I'm not sure how he arrives at I didn't like it, therefore you won't either. This is either arrogance of the highest order, or this is taken from a review intended from an audience that is so fundamentally small he actually does represent their opinions as a whole. In which case it should not be foisted on the internet, where the audience is quite literally the civilized world. And second of all, to you, Mr. Reviewer, you were paid to write that sentence and you cashed the check. Shame on you.
Now, Scott Mendelson from Forbes, I typically like. I post a lot of the reviews from Forbes because I think that their writing is balanced. This one was unbalanced. It's an extinction level event. Oh, stop! It's a fucking movie. Let's get a hold of ourselves here. It's an extinction level event.
Well, okay, let's be fair.
It's not even the worst movie.
Whoever chose that line as the excerpt from his review made a terrible, terrible, terrible error in judgment.
So, Willie Waffles of wafflesmovies.com, I may have to bookmark this website and give it a look-see. This movie becomes a bit too campy. Sir, I'm not entirely sure you understand what campy means.
Yeah, no. Look, this movie could have used camp. In the appropriate places and the appropriate doses, a little camp in a movie like this is kind of what you want. You want the big1rousing speeches. You want the despair to be palpable. You want, some broadly drawn characters because you're dealing with a big cast, so no one gets, Hamlet levels of detail. That's okay. But you want them to be a little bit broadly drawn so that they're relatable and so that you connect on something approaching an emotional level. That's the entire purpose. And look, are there elements of this that are campy? Yeah, I'll give you one that comes off the top of my head. Maybe two. Okay, Bill Pullman saying on behalf of Planet Earth, Happy 4th of July before detonating cold fusion bombs, a little. And the end, where we've got intergalactic travel and, Lesser Hemsworth's hair is all ready to go, and we're going to kick some serious alien ass, sure. I'll give you that one. Outside of that, I'm really struggling to find camp in this movie.
The line is, I've got two words for you, interstellar travel. When do we start?
Yeah, no. Again, is that campy? Sure.
But the movie itself is not campy. Mike
on
Ryan
the
of
whole,
Up.
not at all.
If you've ever wanted to see Liam Hemsworth pee on an alien while flipping the bird, boy, is Independence Day Resurgence the movie for you. Oh, stop. It's one scene. It was one moment. And the whole point of that was that was his decision to cause a distraction.
I think the point the reviewer is making there is that's the only quasi-memorable sequence from the movie.
Really? Because I didn't remember until he brought it up.
I know.
Nigel Andrews of the... God damn it. Hello, computer. There we go. Nigel Andrews of the Financial Times. The soap that it's good factor occasionally kicks in, but even with those ascents from base camp to high camp, once again, you don't understand what camp means. This noisy, assaultive, stunt-oriented film leaves us calling for the oxygen of human and dramatic interest. A little harsh.
I would agree with that. There's a severe lack of interpersonal connection, interpersonal drama, of connection between these characters and the audience. That's all very much absent from the majority of this film. I agree with you. You don't understand camp. What was the first sentence from that you read? Because I had something on that too.
I'm like 2 pages away now, so sorry.
All right. I had something for that too. You were probably wrong there as well.
All right, I'm going to read this last one from Variety. Guy Lodge, top critic. Independence Day Resurgence delivers swiftly and generously when it comes to the goods most viewers will come for. The time-honored joys of blowing stuff up in set pieces that escalate dizzyingly in size and context.
I'm going to go ahead and somewhat disagree with that, actually.
Really?
Well, and here's why. Outside of that scene where the ship lands on the planet, I'm really struggling to remember any appreciable large-scale destruction from this movie after that point.
So
I mean, you have the aerial battles where, ships blow up, and okay, I don't consider that large-scale destruction, especially since you just landed something the size of the Atlantic Ocean on the planet.
So, I have a question for you.
All right.
And in our waning moments of this podcast, I want to see if we can talk about this real quick. Have we ever, in recent memory, say the last 20, 30 years, has there been an alien invasion movie that didn't involve an insectoid culture? So I'm thinking about like Starship Troopers, those were insects. I'm thinking aliens, insects. I'm thinking the Independence Day, insects. Other than like Predator, where they're not really here to attack the culture wholesale as they are on a hunting trip, it seems like if you were to measure our collective anxiety about aliens, we are seemingly the most worried about being attacked by bees. Covered in bees!
Oh, they're in my eyes.
I like my women the way I like my coffee. Covered in bees!
That's a really interesting question. Especially when we define large-scale invasion. I can think of maybe two, and one of them is somewhat debatable.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I know we're running low on time. I didn't know if you wanted me to continue there.
Just what were you thinking?
The War of the Worlds remake. And again, I accept some degree of debate on that depending on how you interpret the brief vision of those creatures when they're out of their machines.
I was going to say, they look like to me.
Yeah, but they're also clearly independent. I mean, visually there are degrees to which, again, I accept some level of debate, and reasonable people can more than disagree with me. The only other one that I can think of is Signs.
Okay, I never saw it, so I couldn't say one way or the other.
They're not insectoid.
Okay.
They're allergic to water, but I mean, look, and that's not a joke, mind you. I actually enjoy Signs by and large, and that's the only one where I can think of where the aliens are humanoid versus again insectoid.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, we're never attacked by anything reptilian. Maybe we ran across some reptilian aliens in Star Trek, but, I mean, we're talking that movie, that show was in the 60s, and, it wasn't alien invasion. I mean, even on Star Trek, the ones that we were, the alien races that we were having conflict with were the Klingons. So that's a whole other category right there. I'm just thinking about
the creatures from the miniseries V were reptilian under human suits, if memory serves correctly.
We're never attacked by monkeys from space. We're never attacked by space pigs.
No, it's a very interesting kind of cultural thing we have going on there.
Yeah, I'm even thinking about. I mean, and granted, we're talking about not what the hell is the name of the villain from DC, one in space, Death something or other, the equivalent of Thanos.
Darkseid.
Thank you. I think the winged things from Batman's Nightmare are actually from his planet. It was nowhere,
Yeah, they're
somewhere.
they're a specific type of demon that exists on the planet Apocalypse.
Yeah. But I just think.
But yeah, they're a little insectoid.
All of it just seems like we just have this weird cultural fear of, giant insects fucking attacking the planet. It's a weird thing. As somebody, again, who is employed in the field of psychology, I find that interesting. Of all the things that we're afraid of.
And it's weird that it's insects, not arachnids, too. I mean, you'd think spiders that had evolved to the point where they could travel through space would be terrifying.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you right now, if I start seeing space spiders, I'm going to scream like a woman.
Oh, you'd scream like a woman if someone was able to successfully graft, like wasp wings onto spiders.
Oh.
Think about it, folks. Spiders that evolved flight.
We have wasps all around here in Florida. We have wasp nests. I have to constantly go around and spray my house. Those things suck. Yeah, but if giant ones ever attack the earth, I'm coming out swinging. Snakes too. Like I think snakes are horrifying, and I can handle snakes like in a zoo setting. If giant spacefaring snakes ever attack the planet, they would be culpable fear. How about dragons? You ever hear about space dragons?
Yeah, King Ghidorah.
Interstellar space dragons.
King Ghidorah.
What's that?
The three-headed dragon from the old Godzilla movies.
I don't fucking know any of that stuff. I'm trying to keep it real.
You, sir, are a homosexual and a communist and an ingrate.
Woo! Look at you biting on my rhymes.
Yeah, but I had to add to it. How do you not know about the old Godzilla movies?
Never watched them.
Again,
they're in black and white.
Borderline. No, a lot of them are in color.
Communist. Japanese stuff there. I don't got time for it. Trying to keep it real American.
I'm not. I could go off on that, and I'm not going to.
All right. So plugs?
Yeah, this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be hosting the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. We've got to look at the Week of Death.
Yeah, you do. I'm surprised someone's knocking on my door to help out with this.
I can do it. I did it last year when they did the same thing, and there's none of these cards that are independently make me want to pull my eyes out. So I'm okay.
Well, even if you wanted my help, I could only help you with Thursday.
Yeah, and it's okay. I got it. I got this. You can start, kind of hoping for the zombie Kimbo versus Ken Shamrock. Who's already a zombie.
Well, next week. Here's what we got going on here on the old Radulich Broadcasting Network. Tuesday, Metal Hammer of Doom for the month of July is the shit we forgot month, or never got to. So we're starting off with an album that came out a little ways back. We're going to get to it finally. It's Gojira, speaking of Godzilla. The new Gojira album, Magma, we'll be tackling that Tuesday night, July 5th. Despite the fact that I'm going to see the BFG on Tuesday, July 5th, we're actually going to review The Legend of Tarzan. And
if you'd rather do the BFG, I'm okay. I don't care between the BFG looks like a better movie, to be perfectly honest.
I still want to go see Tarzan.
Okay.
Maybe I might make my wife review the BFG with me, because I know how much she loves being on podcasts. She doesn't. And then Friday night, we'll be going to the drive-in here in Ruskin in Hillsborough County to go see The Secret Life of Pets. And then you know what I'm doing after that? The double feature, Robert Winfree. After we see The Secret Life of Pets, I'm staying for the second feature, and the second feature is My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, because I am a good husband.
You are a good husband. You are a credit to all men everywhere who endeavor to make their wives' lives better.
Tell you, man, she was very insistent on going to see that movie, so I'm making it happen for her. And then, of course, Saturday night, it's a fight night. Oh, yeah, the only one I care about, Mark Hunt, because he decides, versus Brock Lesnar, because he don't decide. Oh, goodness gracious. You know, I saw somewhere out today that if John Jones and Brock Lesnar win, they should fight each other at Madison Square Garden.
You know, I'm down. I really am. And John Jones would just mess up Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar pretty much would have one shot, and that's it, and then it'd be over. The following week, we'll be reviewing The Secret Life of Pets, but we'll be doing it on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, because Wednesday Robert's got Ferguson versus Chiesa. That's right. And Metal Hammer of Doom will be on Thursday. We'll be reviewing the new Lacuna Coil. The week after that, Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing the new Death Angel, The Evil Divide. And finally, this is what I've been waiting for all summer, Ooh Doggy, will be reviewing Ghostbusters 2016. Did you hear Fall Out Boy and Missy Elliott? Ooh, boy.
I heard about 5 seconds of it before my ears just like spontaneously caused deafness to save me from the rest of it.
I have to say it was pretty unimaginative. I mean, as much as I've been defending this movie.
No. Mark. There's unimaginative and then there's just terrible.
It was pretty unimaginative.
Mark, it was terrible.
Not very inspired.
Mark, it was terrible.
It's Fall Out Boy yelling, "I'm not afraid," and then Missy Elliott rapped.
Mark, it's terrible.
Oh, you keep saying that.
And you keep coming closer and closer to it, saying it with me.
I'm just saying.
Mark, whatever else you can defend about this movie, whatever else happens after it comes out, I am prepared to, fight those battles when they come, and they will. You can admit this song is terrible.
It's not one I would listen to again.
Mark, it's terrible.
This is okay. Listen, this is not some sort of confrontation. What am I thinking of here? Where you sit in a circle and you're like, oh, you come to Jesus kind of a thing. What am I thinking of?
Mark, it's terrible.
This is not that scene out of Good Will Hunting. I'm not going to start to Mark.
It's terrible.
I'm just saying.
You don't have to start crying. I just want to hear you say it.
Why? Why is that important?
Because it's true. You are a fundamentally honest human being, and the fact that you're lying to yourself and all of our listeners disturbs me at the moment.
It's not a good song.
It's terrible.
I mean, saying that it's terrible, I think, is a bit overstating it. It's not like this.
This is
not like
slightly above that Volbeat album you reviewed. Marginally.
No, the instruments are in tune. Nobody's off key.
Hence, marginally.
Marginally. So, I mean, it's well produced, and there's no.
Mark, it's terrible.
You can't hear traffic outside or anything.
Mark, it's terrible.
Okay, it's terrible.
Thank you. Now we can end this thing.
Well, hang on, and then we're following up our Ghostbusters review with a look at Long Road Drone will finally be back after a couple of weeks hiatus because I needed a break. We're looking at Ghostbusters 2, and the often referred to third part of the trilogy, the Ghostbusters video game for Xbox and PlayStation. So, and Sean will be mostly talking about that because I think I tried playing it once and got a headache and stopped. So, no, I think my problem was I didn't play it for Xbox. I think I tried it on the Wii and I couldn't get the hang of it. So I said, "Fuck this," and stopped. But
yeah, cross-platform issues would be a thing there.
but from what I understand, it's commonly thought of as the third part of the trilogy. The story adds up pretty well, so Sean's going to talk about that. And that's as much as we need to tell any people. That's all a month away. So that's what's going on here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Anything else there, Keith?
No, just again this next week. Next week, starting on Thursday the 7th of July. I got 3 back-to-back nights of UFC coverage over in the MMA Zone at 411mania.com. So stop by and say hello. I appreciate it. It's going to be a slog. It's going to be a slog. But
let him know
I will persevere.
Let him know you're counting on him. He loves that.
All right, on that note, I'm Robert Winfree. He's Mark Radulich. We're back next week with another episode of Mark Defends the Indefensible. And I slowly continue going insane. Until then, everybody, please continue to be well, be safe, and behave.